What's up guys, it's Sam Robles from Palo Fishing, and today I'm going to show you how we make custom decals for our rods, so stay tuned.
In my mind, I've got 'em big red on the line. That's where I go when I'm itching to feed my 7-day addiction.
Alright, so a few weeks ago I made a video about how we actually apply these decals that we make onto our rods, and I had a lot of people asking me how we actually go about printing, what software we're using, and what printer are we using. So I'd like to just show you guys my setup here. So basically it's pretty simple. I've got my my computer here, and actually I print all my labels out myself here with a Epson LW-PX800. It's just this little label maker. Actually, I got this from Larry Tobin at LRT Group. You can reach him at larry@lrtgroup.com. A lot of people use this. Actually, I did a lot of research on there before I was buying this printer, and I think it costs roughly about $360. And a lot of people directed me to Larry, and so I've been using his printer for the last probably about a year and a half. Before that, and still right now, I still purchase decals from Decal Connections and some of the other vendors that print out decals for things that are colored. But most of the stuff I print out at home is for, I use this printer. And the big reason why I wanted to do this is I live in an area where I don't have access to people who offer this service. So rather than having to build rods and then wait a few days to get decals, I just decided it was the best thing for me to try to print my own. I did a lot of research. I saw water transfers and just a lot of things, and this seemed to be the easiest for me, and it's worked out well. And so here in the next video, I'm going to show you kind of how we go about making our decals. So one thing I really like about this is the colors. So you can definitely hear. I don't know if you can see that, but here's one I just made as an example. But it's got a metallic feel to it, a metallic foil to it, and you can get these in a silver metallic, gold metallic, and then you can also print in black, white, red, and I believe those are the different colors that Larry carries. But we use a lot of this silver color, this on a 1/2 inch, and what you end up buying is these tapes here, and they come in a 1/2 inch. I get all of these through Larry. You can buy them in a 1/2 inch or 1 inch, and I believe there's a 3/4 inch. He'll let you know exactly what he does. So when you print out, you just got to change the settings on your printer, and then you can print out to whatever size. And so now I'm going to show you how I actually go about designing and printing out our decals. Alright, so I actually do my decals, design them here in Illustrator. So I'm just going to come to Illustrator and kind of show you where we're at. So right now I'm going to put one together for a spinning rod, and I've got the templates, and actually I have one file, so once I build one file I can kind of play around with it as well. And so this is actually sized for a 1/2 inch by and then the length varies depending on the actual length of what you're putting out there. So if you kind of take a look at the size of my artboard, it's roughly in this case it's 2.1 inches long and it's 2.1 inches long and 0.47, and 0.47 is what I use when I'm printing on a 1/2 inch size tape. And then I just changed the width of my artboard to whatever size I'm printing out here. So if we're going to print on this one here, it'd be 2.1 by 0.47. So actually I really like using Illustrator. It just makes things really simple. So obviously the simple thing about using text is you can put text however you want. This is the default text that comes with it. So test label, and then obviously I can change the font on it and just kind of play around with different fonts, find something that's creative or something I likes. And then usually when I'm designing something, I go back, or a label, I go back and forth with my customer and kind of figure out what they like and what I think works well for them. And so let's say we're going to go with this one here. All right. And so just in this case, I'm going to resize my artboard. I'm going to move this out of size here, bring this into my artboard, center it there, center it in the middle, and what's going on here? Actually, it's not centering it to the artboard. It's all right. Let's say that goes there. Kind of move everything over a little bit. Bring this over, back to where we're at, something like that. Let's say we want to scale it down to 90%. Kind of gives us a little bit there. And this one, I want to actually move this to the back. I just send this to the back so I can play around with my 6:9 medium fast. In this case, let's say this is what we're building. And then I'm just going to resize my artboard. And so I tried using the software that comes with the Epson printer. Not to say it doesn't work, and a lot of people work, but I know Illustrator has so much more flexibility. And specifically, so this is pretty straightforward, but let's say I wanted to bring something in with a design. And actually, here's someone that a customer was asking me for. And so let's say there was something like this, right? If I wanted to do something, I could just copy the image, bring it into Illustrator, and say just print it out here. And obviously, so this print it's a single colored, so everything is in a silhouette format, so you got to have that in mind when you're designing your decals. So let's say I had this artist here. Obviously, it's not going to print all the black and white, and so what I like to do when I transform them, actually Illustrator gives you several options, and so when I'm transforming an art or a piece of art, I always choose silhouette as kind of the baseline, and say, okay, this looks pretty good. And so I'm not looking at the stuff that's black, I'm just looking at the hands, because this is what's going to be the color of the foil that I print. And so I say, okay, this might work, and then I'll expand it, and now I can start really cleaning it up. In this case, there's not really a lot of cleanup, it's just removing this on the back side of it. And so here I have this. I know the height of it that I have 0.47, and roughly for my images on that, to keep them within the bounds, you have to be roughly about 0.4. You can go a little bit over than 0.4, but see how it kind of like now it gets really small. And so here is where Illustrator allows you a lot of flexibility. I say, well, I can rotate this, say 90 degrees, and now I have something that sticks out, and I might be able to put this right here instead of where I had it. And so let me see here, I can move this over to the side, bring this down, put it here, and just expand my artboard here. And that's pretty much it too. So you can bring in art from different places. Again, you always have to remember that you're playing with silhouette, so that's pretty important when you're building your or choosing a file to choose. The other thing that's cool about using Illustrator, as well as you can do it with with your other with the app that comes here, is you basically, if you can choose any font you like. One of the common places we use for choosing fonts is thefont.com, and so here's a place where we come to pull out our font. And one of the things here is, let me see, where is it at? There's a place here where you can kind of test your let me see here, where is it at? Normally I'm not seeing it here. Let's see, let's just kind of play around with this a little bit. There's a place here it is where you can enter your text. And so here, if I were going to type in, let's say, test label, it shows you kind of what this font would look like in each of these, or what your text would look like in each of them. And so you're like, hey, I like this one right here. This looks pretty good. You just download this font. It comes onto your computer. You can unzip it and install the font. And then in previous versions of Illustrator, you had to go in and actually go in and restart it. But the nice thing about this one, or at least the last time I did it, is that you didn't have to do that. And so I believe this one's called Heroes legends. And so see that I can just come in here pretty quickly and change the font. And this is just a font I downloaded from the internet. You guys saw it took a few seconds. Came here and was able to put it here, and I can change my spacing. I can put this right here. I can move things however I want to in here. The other thing that to kind of know about this, the way you use this actual printer here, that has to do with the settings of how you actually print, and I'll actually go show you those right now. So let's say I were to go here right now, and one thing like you visually see is that the label itself is skewed to the bottom, and it has to do with the margins that the printer itself has. And so I can change the settings on the printer on the margins, but sometimes it still doesn't work. So what I've learned is that you kind of print everything toward the bottom, and this top part, really it's probably the top tenth of an inch that's going to, or 0.05 I should say, is really not going to show up. So this space, even though it shows here on your artboard, you really don't have it. You really have your space. It really comes up to the bottom and just actually past the bottom. So it's skewed a little bit. Trust me, I don't know why it does it. It just does it, and it creates a lot of headaches sometimes. And I just kind of figured this is the easiest way to do it. So this is the way we design it. And let's say we're at this point, we're ready to print it. We'd come here, and so this is telling me that my document size is 3.15 by 0.47, but my artboard is 0.47 by 2.11. And so in this case, the delta, or the difference here, is 3.15 by 2.11. And so what this is telling me is that my document is 3.5 inches long and 0.47 high, and the media is 0.47 long and 2.7 inch, or 2.1, and that's fine. It's really just the way this thing's going to print it. And so this orientation, this auto rotate, is pretty important to have this set up here. Otherwise it's going to print, it'll print like this, and you don't want that. And so auto rotate's going to find and orient your object to your actual media size, and so, or to the, it's going to rotate it 90 degrees. And so right here, you're not getting everything you want because your artboard is physically constraining you. It's 2.1, but your actual, you really need 3.15. So I go to page setup. This always comes up. And here it lets you choose the size of tape you're going to use after you have the printer installed. And so if you go to 1/2 inch tape, I find that the margins on there, it kind of boxes you in more. So what I like to do is I like to go to manage custom sizes and just manually enter the size that I'm looking at. So 0.47 by 3.15, and that's it. So at this point, I'm ready to print. My printer's online, and I'm going to print. And so this is what came out of my label right here. So it's actually, you see it's a pretty nice label. It's a pretty nice label right there. This is just the way it came out straight out of the printer. No playing around. And again, like I showed you, it looked like everything was skewed to the bottom on the actual artboard. But it actually showed up in the center. So it's just a little trick. If you're going to line anything, my thing is just start from the bottom and then work your way up. Knowing that you can't go all the way to the top. You can touch the bottom and it'll come out nice, but if you go all the way to the top, it won't come out. So, alright guys, so that was just a short video on how we make our labels. I kind of showed you the process of what equipment we use, as well as what software we use to try to get these labels made. There are some challenges about using this, specifically on the application. So sometimes you get like a residue that shows up in between the label and the blank. And it really has a lot to do with what blank you use, as well as what kind of prepping you do on the blank. So in my previous video, I showed you some of the prep work we do, but a lot of it varies on the specific blank. So sometimes these labels sit well on them, sometimes they don't, because the blank has some paint on there, some texture on it, and you can see it through the label. So that's one thing that makes it difficult on there. The other thing is people. One of the challenges is kind of getting people to stick within the silhouette or the single colored type image, and so this works well for building a custom logo. And if you're creative enough, you can play around and get it to look nice in a silhouette. But sometimes people still want them in color. They still want their blues and their reds, or they want their colors to match their rod. So a lot of those times when that happens, we send out our artwork. We still design it in Illustrator, but we send it out to someone to print them out for us, and we get them. So it just adds time to the process. And I've actually found myself in situations where I have a rod ready to deliver, or just about ready to deliver, and I'm waiting on a decal, and that's it's pretty difficult, right? So for that reason, I try to eliminate that by printing our own decals and working that. So anyways, I hope you got some value out of this video. If you did, please like this video, add some comments below. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't. We continue to try to put out these rod building videos, as well as the art of fishing show that we do. We actually have another one coming up. We'll announce it here with Facebook and YouTube or Instagram once we kind of get all that lined up. But yeah, the question for you guys is, let me know how you're making your labels. Are you buying them from someone? If so, who are you buying them? If you're printing them, how are you printing them? And specifically, I'm really interested in learning how people are printing them with color. So what printers are you guys using? I've printed out on some inkjet printers before, and they work. The problem is sometimes as you're putting the epoxy, the paint tends to smear, and it doesn't matter what I do to it. It just and it's not a lot. It's not a huge smear, but it's enough where it's noticeable. These don't smear. They are on there pretty darn good. And so that's one of the reasons we like them. But again, it's the color. I'm really interested in trying to learn what we can do about making decals or printing our own decals in color at home at a reasonable cost, right? There's a lot of printers out there that cost a lot of money. We're trying to stay within that $300 to $400 price range and add that capability. So if you're doing that and you don't mind, just please add the comment below. Let us know how you're doing it. If not, I'm definitely I can share any other tips on this printer. I've been using it for a while now. It's actually got a nice little feature where you can cut off the edges around it, so that's pretty cool. And I have a video on how to put it on, how to put these decals on. But Larry, and he also put some other decals on giving tips on how to print labels and do different things. So, but anyways, thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
In my mind, I've got 'em big red on the line. That's where I go when I'm itching to feed my 7-day addiction.